Why? Why was this made? Why? Other than money, other than corporate greed, why was this movie made? Hey there, guys. This is Cole. I'm back with another review, and unfortunately, I talked positive for 3 movies in a row, but now we got to do a rant on a sequel that I'm not a fan of, and to me, this is what began the downfall of the Ice Age franchise. And today's movie I'm reviewing is Ice Age 4 Continental Drift. Yeah, that movie. And now, if you guys saw my reviews on the previous movies, you guys would know that I really like the first 3 Ice Age movies. I think that they're really good family movies. I can't say the same here, though, but anyways, what is the plot of this movie? Well, the plot of this movie is as follows. Scrat's hunt for his acorn sends him to the center of the earth, where he splits the supercontinent separating Manny, Sid, and Diego from the rest of their herd. So that's basically the premise of this movie, and basically, I mean, you already know the cast. You have a lot of returning cast members, as well as some new cast members. You got Ray Romano as Manny. You got Dennis Leary as Diego. You got John Leguizamo as Sid. You got Queen Latifah as Ellie. You got Kate Palmer as Peaches. You got Chris Wedge as Scrat. You got Karen Disher as Scrat-Tay, even though it's only brief. You got Sean William Scott as Crash. You got Josh Peck as Eddie. You got Wanda Spikes as the Granny. And Peter Dinklage as the main villain, Captain Gut. And, well, anyways, how was this movie received? Well, when Ice Age Continental Drift was released on July 13th, 2012, it received negative review. To no surprise, it received negative reviews by both critics and audiences, but despite the fact that this movie ended up getting negative reviews, that did not stop the movie from being a hit, making $877.2 million worldwide on a $95 million budget. And yeah, again, like I said, I really like the first 3 Ice Age movies, but to me, this is where it started to get bad. And also, and even when you look at Ice Age as a franchise, if you watch 1, 2, and 3 back to back, they're pretty good family movies. In fact, in 2002, when the very first Ice Age came out, the very first Ice Age movie, it actually did receive good reviews by both critics and audiences. And to this day, the first Ice Age movie is considered to be an animated movie classic of the 2000s. In fact, like I said, the first Ice Age is regarded as a really good movie by both critics and audiences, and I agree with that. But this one, definitely not so much, because like I said, to me, this is where the downfall started. But let's just get into this rant so I don't have to talk about this movie for too long, because this intro's gone on long enough. So, yeah, if anyone actually cares, our movie starts off where we see the saber-toothed squirrel Scrat again. And I gotta say this. Look, I like Scrat as a character. Scrat was a very good character in the first 3 movies. However, I feel like this time around, I honestly feel like Scrat was starting to lose. I feel like Scrat was starting to lose his charm this time around, because it's okay, in all honesty, there was no need for Scrat to be in this movie, honestly, because, I mean, think about it. With Scrat before, you have literally done everything that you can with the character. But of course, the studio got greedy, and they're like, oh, but the studio was greedy, and they're like, oh, we need more of this. They're like, oh, yeah, well, we need more of this. Yeah, guys. Yeah, we need more of this. Hey, more money. We need this. No, you don't. Because this movie was not necessary. I mean, Ice Age 3 was literally the perfect ending for this franchise, where the movie literally ends where Manny and Ellie have a baby named Peaches, and the main characters, they are able to, they are able to escape the danger from their adventure, and now Manny is now a dad, a happy dad, because if you guys remember in the very first Ice Age movie, we were given the backstory that Manny's family was killed by a human tribe. So I really feel like Ice Age 3 was the perfect ending, because Manny was able to, not only, date Ellie, but he finally got, his wife was pregnant and he finally got a baby, and they were both a happy mother and a dad. And guess what? There was no sequel bait ending whatsoever. To me, that was the perfect ending for this series. But nope, like I said, the studio needed more money. But anyways, getting on with this. At the beginning of the movie, Scrat, because Scrat cares so much about that acorn, he tries to get that acorn, but guess what? He literally falls through. He falls through a mountain, goes down, to the center of the earth, and Scrat briefly sees Buck Wild, with the Buck Wild taming Rudy, which Rudy, like, as we all know, was the villain of the third movie. But again, it's only a brief second. And no, look, do not get me wrong. I like Buck Wild as a character, and I like the third Ice Age movie, but there was absolutely 0 point. Now, granted, I know he's not in the movie. Granted, I know he doesn't have a significant role in the movie. I know he only has, like, maybe, at most, I can give you, like, maybe a 5-second cameo at most. To me, it was not necessary whatsoever. And then we get the whole scene where Scrat, he literally falls on top of the core of the earth. He's trying to run to get his acorn. And of course, Scrat, it doesn't go wrong. And again, look, do not get me wrong. I like Scrat as a character, but at this point, Scrat was starting to lose his appeal as a character. And I'm sorry, it just got very redundant, And then we now cut to not long after Scrat, because he was running on the Earth's core and he caused, stuff to mess up, it basically caused a continental drift, where basically this movie explores the idea of Pangea, which if you guys are familiar with, prehistoric climatology, I mean, people who are familiar with that know what Pangea is. So I'm like, I guess Pangea is an okay concept for an Ice Age movie, but the problem is that it was not well executed here. And again, this movie, there was no need for this movie to get made. I mean, other than money and corporate greed, there was no need. But anyways, after Scrat messes up the earth, we now cut to Manny and, Ellie. And Manny is an overprotective dad, trying to take care of his daughter, because now look, again, I understand what they're trying to do with it, but it just, I don't know, but if you guys remember, again, like I said, in the first Ice Age movie, now look, I know this review was all over the place, but I'm so discombobulated that I'm barely even... I can barely focus. That's how bad this movie is. But anyways, Manny, he's basically trying to look for his daughter Manny and his daughter Ellie, and Manny, he basically scolds Crash and Ellie, basically saying, "Where's Peaches? You were supposed to make sure Peaches was okay." And the movie does take place about 13 or so years after Ice Age 3, Dawn of the Dinosaurs, which okay, like, I do appreciate that this movie did do a time jump, I do appreciate how this movie did do a time jump, because it would have been repetitive to just see the characters the same age again, so I guess a time jump was nice. Granted, it doesn't save the movie, but I guess it was nice. But anyways, basically, Peaches, who is now a teenager, is friends with this ground mold character I mean, he's an okay character, but I really don't remember much about his character. I mean, he was really nothing to write home about. I mean, he's okay. I mean, I guess of the newer characters, he's one of the more tolerable, but again, nothing to me other than the fact that he's a ground mole and friends with Peaches. I mean, nothing about this character really stood out to me. But anyways, basically Manny gets into a big argument with his daughter Peaches, is basically upset about the fact that she wandered off without telling him and stuff like that. And another thing that I really don't like about this movie is so Peaches decides to hang out with some friends, which I'm like, okay, Peaches having like a boyfriend, like that's an okay, like a woolly mammoth boyfriend, but because Peaches is a woolly mammoth too. I'm like, okay, her having a kind of like a teenage boyfriend of her own. I'm like, that's an okay idea. It could work, but here's my main problem. Her boyfriend, which like her boyfriend is so her like not just her boyfriend, but like all her friends, like minus the exception of the mole character who's okay. Like honestly, I can't tell you anything about her friends. Like that's how forgettable they were. Like for example, like there's a now anyways, there's the whole part where Peaches, she wants to see her boyfriend. Well, she wants to see her friend, her boyfriend, or whatever. But Crash and Eddie basically they basically pop up, and Ellie's Peaches is like, "What are you doing here?" And Manny said, Manny told us to make sure to watch us to make sure that you don't go down there, and but not to be detected, and you already saw us, so it didn't work, which honestly that did not need to be there. And then of course there's the whole scene where Peaches, she goes down like an ice slide, and she basically she basically tries I'm trying to think, like she basically goes down a slide, she shoots up in the air, like some mud which is shooting up from the ground gets on her, and she lands on top of her friend Julian. I think that's honestly, yeah, Julian is his name, but the character's so forgettable that I literally forgot the name of it until I just remembered it. That's how forgettable Julian is as a character. But anyways, Peaches lands on top of him, and basically Manny says, "What are you doing?" and stuff like that. And basically Manny and his daughter, they get into an argument. He basically says that she's grounded for not listening to him, and then basically what happens is that basically part of the ice cracks, and basically because of this ice quake, Manny, Diego, and Sid are all separated from Peaches. Oh, and I know this happened a little earlier in the movie. I forgot to mention it, but early on in the movie, we are finally introduced to Sid's family, because if you guys remember in the first movie, we were told that Sid's family left him, but like we never actually got to see his family, which okay, adding his family here I guess was a nice connection, but here's the one problem with that. Basically, Sid's family are very unlikable in this movie at the beginning, and here's why I say that. Because we are not even 10 minutes into the movie, and basically Sid's dad, uncle, and his family members, who honestly I don't remember a single thing about. And here's the thing, I literally just finished this movie less than 20 minutes ago, and honestly I cannot tell you anything about his family. I mean, other than one of his members. Like, that's how forgettable they are. But anyways, his family, they basically say, hey, like, we want Sid to hang out with his grandma, who doesn't have much left, his sloth grandma. But basically, here is what I mean by his family being very unlikable. Not even 10 minutes into the movie, they basically decide, Sid's family just basically decides to abandon him without saying goodbye, basically leaving Sid to take care of his granny because they don't want her anymore. And I'm like, wow, really? Like, that right there made them very unlikable characters to me. Like, no. Like, I mean, and this literally happens not even 10 minutes into the movie. And I'm like, wow. What a terrible way to start off our movie. But anyways, we now cut to the part where they're on the water, and Scrat, once again, is trying to get his acorn. It doesn't go so great. He basically finds, like, an acorn shell underwater, but it's, like, a treasure map leading him to an acorn, which he does find at the end, which, I mean, of course he was going to, but basically what happens is that Manny, Diego, and Sid are on top of, like, an ice sheet, and how they survive this, like, is beyond me, but basically, again, I understand it's a cartoon, but again, look, I understand that this is meant to be a kid's movie, but you, at the very least, like, you have to have logic. Like, there is a limit to how far you can go with stuff, and this movie definitely pushes it. Again, I understand it's a family movie, but again, there's definitely, but again, with family movies, like, there's got to be a limit for how far you go, and I think this movie pushes it. Oh, and the next movie in the franchise, Ice Age Collision Course, definitely pushed it, which I have never liked that movie, but I'll cover that next. And when I first saw this movie back in 2013, a year after it came out, initially I thought this movie was okay, but honestly, rewatching the movie again, this movie did not hold up for me at all. But anyways, like I said, Sid, Manny, and Diego, they're on the ice sheet with the tree attached, and guess what? We find out that Sid's granny was literally hiding inside the tree trunk, and I'm like, hiding inside a tree with a hole that she can climb in. I'm like, okay, like, look, I understand she's old, but, like, how was she able to sleep through all that loud noise? Like, come on now. And our main villain of the movie, Captain Gut, which is like basically our main group of villains is like a sea shanty group of pirates. I'm like, okay, this is dumb. Like, I'm like, okay, no, this is dumb. Like, this is a dumb direction for Ice Age. Like, really? Pirates now? Really? And in my opinion, I really did not like the main villain of this movie, Captain Gut. And I'm sorry, I do not buy this guy as a villain for 1 second. I mean, like, I did not buy him as a villain. I really didn't. And look, I understand it's a kid's movie, and I understand he's a pirate, but again, I just did not really buy him that much as a villain. And like here, now granted, this is not an animated movie, but since it has pirates, I'm going to make a comparison. The 2003 movie Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, yes, that movie has a pirate as the main villain, but here's the difference. Captain Barbossa was actually a good villain, and guess what? He was actually believable. Like, he's the type of guy that you actually would buy as a villain. Here, no, this villain sucks. I do not buy Captain Gut. I do not buy this guy as a villain at all. Like, and even some of his crewmates, like, okay, minus the exception of one crewmate, named Shira, which I did voice by, I could be wrong on this. I'm sorry. I need to pause this quick. I just need to check who voiced Shira. I'm pretty sure I know who it is, but I'm just gonna check quick. Okay, never mind. I guess I should have written down who was in it, but who voiced Shira. But apparently Disney Plus doesn't give you the full entire cast, only limited members, which is stupid. But I would never own this. Again, I really like the first 3 Ice Age movies. And like I said, my DVDs are not in the best shape anymore. So I actually would buy a new DVD box set if it was of the first 3 Ice Age movies. But this movie, and especially the next one, I would never own this movie or the next one on DVD. But if I remember correctly, I think Nicki Minaj voices Shira, although I could be wrong on that, so correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below. Again, I probably should have looked it up, but at this point, I really don't care. Like, and basically, guess what happens? These group of pirates basically kidnap Manny, Sid, and Diego, as well as Granny, and basically, they want to, make sure these characters do not escape and stuff like that. But of course, our main group of characters escape, and Granny is talking to this animal called Precious, which at the time, basically Sid, Manny, and Diego, they basically think that, Precious is an imaginary friend of Granny's, but later in the movie, we find out that it's a large whale, but I'll get to that when I get to that. But anyways, basically, Manny basically promises to get back to his daughter and stuff like that, and his wife Ellie. But in all honesty, like this movie was, again, this movie was nothing special. I mean, if you have seen this movie was nothing special. If you have seen the movie Finding Nemo, then you have seen this movie. And you might ask, well, what do I mean by that? Well, basically, this movie is like Finding Nemo, but instead of it being about fish, it's about Ice Age. Basically, that's, and in all honesty, it's not even a good, here's the sucky thing. It's not even a good knockoff of Finding Nemo. It's not even a good knockoff of that. And that, and like, because Manny promises to get to his daughter, but again, like I said, this movie was nothing special. If you've seen Finding Nemo, then you've seen this movie. Like, this movie was very predictable. It was very paint by numbers, very generic, and again, nothing to write home about. You have seen this movie done 1,000 times before, and you have seen this movie done, significantly better 1,000 times before. This was nothing special. But anyways, Manny, and again, one big problem I have with this movie, minus the exception of the mole guy who's okay, like, I really do not like Peaches. I mean, Peaches, like, by Peaches, I basically mean her friends. Like, I really do not like her. I really do not like her boyfriend, Mammoth, in this movie. Like, I really did not like that character, like, Julian, like, and not even just Julian, like, Julian, I mean, okay, her boyfriend is Julian, but Julian is also friends with, like, I don't know, like, 3 different Mammoths who are basically friends with Julian, and I'm sorry, not only did I not like Julian, I thought that Julian's friends, like, I thought his friends sucked in this movie, and, like, that's the thing I hate, is that not one single friend of Julian, or even Julian himself, is a good character in this movie. Like, I found Julian's friends so annoying that I just wanted Diego to, like, to get rid of them, get them out of the movie. Like, that's how annoying and obnoxious that Peach's friend Julian and her friends were. Like, that's how obnoxious they were to me. And again, like, but of course, this movie's paint by numbers. You know the characters are not gonna die. Like, and here's the thing that sucks about it. Like, for example, like I'm trying to think, like, the first 3 Ice Age movies. The reason that those movies work is, I mean, yes, they're good family movies, but what do they have? They have good characters, good stories, and you actually feel like, now granted, they're not gonna die, but the thing is like, you actually feel scared for the characters, and you actually hope that they make it out of it okay. Here, like, honestly, this movie, like, I did not feel any of that in this movie, and that sucks, because again, I really like the first 3 movies, but I did not feel, I don't know, I just did not feel that emotional, I didn't feel that emotional gravitas that the movie wanted me to. And that's really a shame, because, again, I like the first 3 movies, so when I heard that they were making this, I was like, okay, because I was very young when the Ice Age movies came out. Like, you gotta keep that in mind. Like I said, I was born in 2003, so I was born a year after the first one, but as a kid, I watched the first, second, and third movie on DVD hundreds of times, and now, the funny thing, now, I didn't see this movie in theaters. Now, I don't remember which character it was, but, like, back in 2012, before the movie came out, well, right about the time the movie came out, like, I know McDonald's did some toys to this movie, and if I remember, now granted, I don't have this toy anymore, I don't know what happened to it, but I know I had a toy of Scrat at, was it Scrat? Honestly, I can't remember. I know I had a toy of one of the characters from these movies, I know that, it was either Scrat or maybe Diego, but again, I don't remember, and in all honesty, like, that's not the important part. The thing is that this movie sucked. But then later on in the movie, we find out that this Precious, which is Granny's imaginary friend, or so they think, just so happens to be a whale, and Sid fetches a ride on the whale with his granny, and of course, the movie ends where the family, where Manny and Ellie reunite with their daughter Peaches and stuff like that, and then we get the whole ending where, again, look, I understand this is meant to be a cartoon, but even then, like, it's so dumb. Like, for example, the whole part where Scrat goes to Scratlantis, which is basically a parody of Atlantis, where there's all acorns. Like, I thought that part was kind of dumb. And then, of course, like an absolute moron, the squirrel's talking to him, which, yeah, for some, I don't know why, but for now, again, as we know, Scrat cannot. Now, granted, I know that all the other animals in Ice Age, minus the exception of Scrat, do not talk in the previous movies, but it's very much established in the previous Ice Age movies that squirrels do not talk. So I don't know, like the whole idea of like Scrat coming across an empire of squirrels that could talk, like honestly, I thought that was kind of dumb, and like that is not only is that stupid, but like that is a very huge retcon with Ice Age. And then I'm sorry, I don't, when it comes to any movie, when it comes to anything in media, whether it's movies, video games, or books, like, I don't care. Like, I cannot stand retcons. Like, I think retcons, like, they're very pointless and dumb, and this movie did nothing to change my mind on that. So, yeah. Oh, and sorry, I forgot to mention this, but, now, remember the character She-Ra I was talking about? Remember the character She-Ra I was talking about? Like, I guess of the new group of characters, She-Ra is the one new member of the group that I think is a good character, where basically She-Ra, she is basically a part of Captain Guts' crew. However, She-Ra, she decide, and the thing about She-Ra is that she is a white saber-toothed cat, but she decides to no longer be a bad guy and betray Captain Gut and join Diego and his crew. And again, like I said, of the newer characters, She-Ra, I guess, was like the one new character that I did like. And okay, before I end this rant, are there any positives with this movie? Okay, even though the script and even though this is a bad movie, I do have to admit, even though this movie sucks, the animation is beautiful. It is nice to look at, and I do think the animation is a bit of a step up from the previous movies. I also do think that the voice actors do a good job. I guess there's like a moment that I guess was kind of funny where basically what happens is that Peaches, her groundhog friend basically says, "Aren't you guys a little scared and or concerned about the world ending?" And then Crash and Eddie say, "Well, here's the thing. We are very, very stupid." Like, I guess that part was actually kind of funny because, yes, Crash and Eddie are idiots, but they are funny idiots. So the fact that they said they were very, very stupid, I guess, was funny. And I guess my final, okay, so the animation's good. The voice cast is mostly good. There was one moment that made me laugh. Honestly, that might be it for positives. Like, I really did not like this movie, and so, yeah. But unfortunately, as bad as this movie was, oh boy, it is not as bad as the next movie, which I'll be talking about here soon here. But, yeah. At a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give Ice Age Continental Drift a 3 out of 10. So yeah, thanks for watching my rant, and next up, unfortunately, is going to be my review of Collision Course, which I have never liked, but yeah. Anyways, guys, talk later, and thank goodness I never have to talk about this movie again. Bye-bye now.